The story of pluralism in the United States of America is unfolding in real time. It's not just rabbis, pastors, and imams that are building it. We all contribute to our ecosystem of pluralism. Part of this work is to be our full selves and engage with one another across differences to cultivate mutual flourishing. We need to do this work because we must find a way to live well together. Rafia and Sayyid Syeed are living examples of what it means to be fully who they are, including Muslim and American. They raised a family here, established and cultivated relationships, organizations, and movements that have inspired generations and grown beyond their own neighborhood. This is part of their story and their practice of principled pluralism, as told by their eldest daughter, Afifa.
My parents have always been committed to freedom, hard work, and community. They constantly share with others their values of love, courage, and persistence. They also deeply believe in the promise of pluralism, and they know that it takes hard work to make it a reality. In our Kashmiri culture, it's a tradition to write poetry to mark significant moments in our lives. When my father was born, a local religious leader wrote a poem.
Oh, the new sapling from the palm tree of the Syeed family.
The one who plants trees. For as long as I can remember, that's my father, and really, both our parents. The poem hangs in their dining room in Virginia, along with other poems and important documents, beautifully recording our family life. Both my grandparents' roles as community spiritual leaders shaped my own parents' value of inclusivity. They grew up immersed in conversations and movements around freedom and a community's self-determination and a spiritual well-being.
My parents, they inherited a certain calling, a role, that is educating. They were not part of some school or college, but they had inherited a very high level of scholarship and practice in Islam. My father took me to Gandhi, so it was amazing to see someone we had seen only in pictures. So he took me in his lap. So I must have been 7 years old. It was quite exciting. I remembered it. It was a connection, not something that we had planned, but it happened. While many people, they may never have seen, of my generation may have seen Gandhi that closely, but I had that special pleasure.
Just days before my parents' wedding, my father was arrested and began a prison sentence for his participation in the non-violent, student-led Free Kashmir movement. He was tortured as a political prisoner, but he was also able to connect with other intellectuals and activists while he was there. The wedding date was postponed indefinitely, and, without communication allowed between them, our mother, Rafia, kept her job as a professor, waiting and hoping. 3 years later, when my father was finally released from prison, my parents reunited, married, and began growing our family. Meanwhile, the U.S. was also changing. The Civil Rights Act opened the door to immigration reform. Although my father was offered prestigious jobs in India, he realized the idea of living in a free Kashmir would be impossible, and he made a difficult decision to migrate to where he could be a part of building something greater in the United States of America. My mother remembers him looking out into a rainy day and saying with a heaviness in his voice that he had decided to pack his bag and leave for a graduate program in Indiana while she, my sister, brother, and I would wait in India. I remember looking at photos that he would send us often. At that time, I was curious as a 5-year-old about the people, places, and events that he was experiencing, but really mostly I was missing making kites with him and riding on his shoulders. A year later, we all joined our father in starting a new future for our family in America. My father would say to us then that this is our home now. We're Americans. So we're responsible for making it the best place to live that we can for everyone.
For the first time in America, during the 60s, we had about 500,000 Muslim students at one time in American university. I got involved, and in 1976 onwards, I was involved at every level. In 1980, I became the president of this national organization. So we had 800 chapters all over America and Canada.
My father helped build infrastructures and institutions by and for American Muslims that continue to adapt and inspire new generations today. While our father was studying and being a national and international student leader, our mom became a community leader, caring for anyone in need within our now extended university campus family. She would get a call sometimes in the middle of the night and bring the stranger back to our home for some comfort and food, just as her mother had done in Kashmir. My siblings and I would sometimes wonder, who would we find at our dinner table and what would we learn about the world through that person? We saw how important it was to care for each person and share whatever we had. This was our American life grounded in our family's traditions.
One time we went in a school, primary school. The principal called me. She said, I want you to come to talk to our kids. We have convocation on every Tuesday. It was a primary school. I went, I talked, Islam, what is Islam? Then a lady, girl, sweet, she raised her hand. She said, yes, I have a question. I said, what is your question? She said, what do you say in prayer? When you pray, what do you say? So I said, I will pray to God. And so then I read in Arabic, Surah Fatiha, one of the, which we have to say. I said, okay. And I said the meaning of that. So everybody's happy. So next morning, the principal calls me. He said, Mrs. Syeed, did you read today's newspaper? I said, no. Why? He said, your newspaper, don't get upset. It's the principal telling me, don't get upset. Because I said, why? He said, because there is something about last day, yesterday's program, somebody has written, but I'll tell you the story. I said, okay. Then I went to join the newspaper. I read, and it was an article written by a father of the student who was in the school. So that yesterday in school, there was a lady, from Afghanistan. I'm from Kashmir, first of all, anyway. So Afghan lady she was in costume. Costume is, this is called costume. So she was in costume. And she was teaching our children Islam. So I would not let our children to be taught Islam like that. My daughter is, I don't want my daughter to. I read this, I was laughing. I said, what's this? Next day, the editor of the same newspaper wrote an article against this article. I have it somewhere. He wrote the article that this was not costume. It was, and she was not saying, she was telling what she's wearing. Because I think he was himself there, perhaps, or something. Very nice article. So this is how the Bridging the Gap was, and we invited him one of our meetings, and so this is the Bridging the Gap was doing this, because I did not concentrate on higher, the level, because I was talking to neighbors, we're talking to schools.
During those early years, our parents connected with Muslims and their families, many who came from other countries, and those who had converted to Islam, all of us navigating new experiences together. We drove across the country in our family station wagon, meeting with other families and leading conversations on creating a robust Muslim and American identity. With all of us kids on the road, our parents brought home-cooked food, and sometimes they would let us share an extra-large soda or ice cream. We stayed in basements and living rooms and sleeping on the floor and eating at tables with so many families. Everyone was called uncle or auntie, regardless of their background or expression of faith. We drove through big and small towns and really saw the diversity of America firsthand. When my parents were invited to speak in churches, temples, and other places of worship, they would take us along, And I remember going to Sunday school in a church in Bloomington, Indiana, and we also had Jewish friends with whom we would share kosher meat. We learned that our freedom of religion and culture was included in the promises and principles of the United States. Muslims encourage each other to be involved in their local communities and public life and to help shape our shared American identity on our own terms. My parents remember people's names and stories and ask about their families and genuinely care about their well-being.
When Bishop Eaton was installed in Chicago, we had a series of events, and Mr. and Mrs. Syeed came to that installation, and there was a special dinner afterward, and I was seated with the Syeeds. As my twins were in the NICU at that time, and I was really afraid about that, Mrs. Syeed really comforted me in the context of that dinner. She told me about their twins, and she told me the stories of their difficulties, but also of their successes over time. And I carried that with me in the trauma of that experience with our own twins and our hopes for their healing. And of course, today they're 10. And it is a joy from time to time to exchange with Mrs. Syeed an update about my twins and to hear an update about hers. But that kind of person-to-person encouragement that she offered me changed me in some really important ways. And I think that that's how the Syeeds have always shown up.
So many people across the country experienced grief, fear, and confusion as anti-Muslim discrimination began to rise dramatically in 2001. My parents, like many Muslim Americans, felt such loss, but they continued to work for a country that was for all of us. Our communities kept cultivating trusted relationships across differences. These included my parents working with other faith leaders and communities to address poverty, access to health care, nuclear disarmament, racial justice, and gender inclusion in our American society. Our family wasn't the only one building these communities.
When the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati was built in the 90s, they started a tours and talks program. Neighbors and religious groups, senior groups, schools, they would come in, and I was one of the tour guides. At the end of the conversations, it was always the same message. It was always, we're so similar. And so that was so beautiful to me, that they could come into the mosque, and through our discussions and through our sharings, they could leave feeling a connection to the mosque and the Muslim community, a personal one.
Eventually, they joined others in establishing the Shoulder to Shoulder campaign as a place where people of many different religions beyond the Muslim community could work shoulder to shoulder to address anti-Muslim discrimination as a particular barrier to experiencing full freedom and true and equitable American pluralism. Now that our parents are taking some well-deserved rest, their commitments remain strong. We gather regularly for family dinners to catch up with each other. Papa sends emails and texts to new and old friends, encouraging them and sharing stories. Mom talks to old friends, recollecting their activism and sacrifices as she appreciates the next generation's flourishing. They're great-grandparents now, and Papa always reminds all three Syeed generations of these values in any way that he can.
Here you have, this gives color as well as fragrance.
In the last couple of years, my father has started planting trees around their home. Some fig, pine, and fruit trees, rose bushes, and herbs. We joke that he planted so many relationships and communities that now, in his retirement, he uses actual plants to do the same work. He reminds us that the fruit of these endeavors isn't immediately apparent, both in the trees and in these relationships. Each of us 6 Syeed kids hold pieces of this perspective and practices of our parents in different ways, both professionally and personally. We also witness glimpses of the impact of their work when Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and other religious leaders and people they might have only met once share how our parents' attentive and nurturing personalities helped them. Maybe it was a personal connection to them through a shared experience, or perhaps information about Islam that enlightened their understanding. Sometimes it might have just been the positive and optimistic way that they look at the world that helps them realize great possibilities exist even when we face challenges. My parents ask us to always keep honoring our commitments to faith, to cultivate pluralism, and to plant seeds that flourish into a purposeful lived life. Their principled pluralism can serve as an inspiration for all of us to continue on in our work of building a better nation and a better world.